Good evening. Welcome everybody. I think we're just waiting on a couple of people to join us. Vic, do you have any apologies for this evening?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Bruton, Wilde and Watkins.
Thank you. And do we have any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or any other disclosable interests for anything on the agenda this evening? Martin?
Should I declare that was on the CPG group? I don't need to. Okay, just want to check.
Mark. Anybody else? No? That's great, thank you. And can we have confirmation of minutes of the previous meetings held on the 25th of June and the 18th of July? Could we get a proposer for those? For a proposer? Thank you, Dean. And a seconder. Thank you, Martin. That's great. Thank you. Chairman's announcements. I did think as writing these that they have a bit of an outdoorsy feel to them. Firstly, well done to our previous chair, Councillor Barbara Jones-Williams, on her superb and death-defying feat of wing walking. Something I could never see myself doing. Barbara, I've got to ask, how was it?
I would highly recommend it. It was fabulous. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was something that I've wanted to do now for a good many years, and I had a good reason to do it because of Air Ambulance. We've raised £4,210 so far. And that doesn't include the gift aid, I believe. So, you know, I was well pleased about that. But thank you, everybody who actually did sponsor me and everybody who supported me in any case, which I really do appreciate. And yes, I recommend it. Good fun. I have got pictures if anybody wanted to have a look.
Thank you, Barbara. That is amazing that you did that. Incredible. Since our last meeting, it's been a very busy summer as chair of the council and with a lot of visits to events. And where I've not been able to make some, I'd like to thank Councillor John Rain for stepping in and, as you'd expect, doing a great job representing the district. I won't go through all the visits and events, many in other districts where it's been interesting and engaging to see other councils in action and to meet lots of other councillors, chairs and mayors. Back in July, we had a visit from Her Majesty the Princess Royal, someone we all know to be an extremely hard-working royal. She had a number of engagements in the area, but I had the privilege of welcoming her to the Three Counties Showground to open a new exhibition hall. It was a good morning and a real honour to be involved. It was ironic that a few weeks later I was watching the hall being used whilst working at Busfest, one of the many successful events held at Three Counties Showground. Sticking with the great outdoors, it was great to take part in the inaugural Elgar Birthplace 10K in Lower Broadheath, which attracted 120 runners, and I'm sure we can make an even bigger event in 2025. An amazing event that once again showed the public spirit in my village. It was also good to attend the MHDC staff update last week and take some questioning from staff members about life as a councillor and, importantly, that link between councillors and officers. The final event I want to mention, which I attended, was alongside the chairman of Malvern Hills Trust, Councillor David Mead, and also John Peters, the famous RAF pilot, was the Malvern Hills Challenge, a walk of the hills done by nearly 300 people in aid of Help for Heroes. There are two routes, one 18k and the other 9k, and it ends in Priory Park, where we were giving out the medals to those that had taken part. If anybody's interested in next year, I did say I'd give it a plug. You can sign up for next year's event, which will be on the 13th of September at the website malvernhillschallenge.org. And it was a wonderful day for it as well. I think it's better than most days within August, and it was in September. And to time with that, I will be setting up a walk in January, which will take place from Brecon Beacons to Malvern Hills in support of Bonterre, the community interest company that I'm supporting in my term as chair. I'll send out more details on that as we get them. And finally, thank you to all of you who are coming to my civic service in Lower Broadheath on the 20th of October. Thank you. And with that, turn to public participation. Unless Ian's going to join in, we don't have any. Thank you. Leaders' question time. We've got one question, and that's from Councillor Jeremy Owenson.
Thank you. Last year I raised at last year's September Council the issue that we didn't have a tree policy, and I was told to expect an answer in due course, and then subsequently told it might be worth looking at adopting a tree policy. Can the leader tell me what progress we've made to date?
Jeremy, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your question. So the answer is as follows, and I'll provide you with a full text. I can't find, where's Jeremy? Jeremy, I couldn't find you. I will give you the text, so don't worry about trying to write it all down. I'll provide you with the narrative. The adopted South Worcestershire Development Plan contains policies relating to the environmental enhancement and protection of our towns and countryside. However, we don't, as you suggest, currently operate a tree preservation order policy, as there is no specific need for one. The process of designating a tree preservation order has recently been reviewed, updated and aligned with both Wychhaven and Malvern Hills councils to ensure that the same process and interpretation is followed. The process is fully open and transparent, and details of how we deal with TPOs are set out on the website under the Heritage section. Our website also provides links to government website where full details on protected trees can be found. Whilst the process has been aligned, it remains a fundamental principle of such a decision-making process that each case is considered on its own individual merits, having regard to the circumstances in each case. Officers use a scoring mechanism to ensure any tree under consideration meets the requirements for making an order, and any order can be challenged by members. These scoring sheets are currently placed on the file and are available upon request. However, officers will undertake a review of the protected tree web pages to improve the information available and to ensure the pages are up to date and relevant. Finally, officers will also review whether it is appropriate to make the scoring sheets available on the website within the application file to the public to ensure the process remains open and transparent.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question?
I do. I think it's a word of the reason why I think we need a tree policy is because we need to be able to demonstrate to our residents that we are consistent in our scoring mechanism. And one of the papers I presented last year demonstrated that we don't have a consistency between trees in built-up areas and trees in countryside areas, as an example. I know that other councils do incorporate the scoring mechanism into a broader tree policy that explains more clearly how that scoring is done. Could I ask the leader to at least review how other councils are looking at what other councils are using as a published tree policy to see if we can learn anything from those?
Happy to answer in the affirmative. Our officers, I would wish to state again that our officers believe we don't actually have to have a tree preservation order policy in its own right. The scoring sheets will be available and are available. I have to say that Northern area rarely gets a tree preservation order application. It would be a source of some celebration if Northern area were to start receiving tree POs. I hear with great interest from colleagues in the southern part of the district how often you end up spending a long time talking about tree, and feelings often run quite high. So I can understand from a southern area point of view particularly how you might be making the point you're making this evening, but I will undertake, Jeremy, to do as you've asked.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, notice of motion. We don't have any, so that brings us to item number 8, and I'm going to turn to Councillor Tom Wells again to take us through recommendations from the governance CPG. Thank you, Tom.
Chairman, thank you. So moving to agenda item 8, I'm happy to move the recommendations set out at 2.1, namely that the Council agrees the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel be automatically adopted each year, subject to the agreement of the portfolio holder of resources and the S151 officer. 2, an annual update be provided to all members with details of the recommendations from the IRP. And finally, the process be reviewed every 4 years, coinciding with district council elections. The next of those, of course, to be in May 27. I so move.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, John.
I was going to take them one at a time.
Okay.
So I'm just going to do A first and then B and then C.
Okay, fine.
So, sorry, Chairman, just so we're clear, perhaps you might wish to take them in order A, B, and then C. So I was moving A specifically at that point.
Okay. So do we have a seconder? John, are you okay to second just A? That's fine, thank you. And sorry, can we open that up for debate and discussion? Just on item A at the moment. Paul?
I'd just like to say that the committee was very thorough in looking at this, and the main reason why allowances should go up is because we don't want to exclude people on low incomes from becoming councillors. I think that was one of the things that resonated with everybody. And as if the allowance drops significantly over a period of time, as it has done up till now, then that it precludes people who are on low incomes from taking this role, which is really important for democracy going forward. And as was said during the meeting, people don't need to take all of the money. They don't need to take expenses if they don't want to and if their conscience prevents them. So it's not compulsory.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else want to comment before we take Jeremy?
Just to say, this is basically what I've been advocating for the last 7 years. So I'm happy to do this. What we're basically saying is we take as read the allowances going forward, and at the first council of newly elected council, the new councillors can decide whether or not they wish to renew that process going forward. That's exactly what I've been advocating for 7 years, so I fully support this.
Thank you, Jeremy. Dean?
It's nice to see Councillor Wright for once.
Thank you, Dean. Should we take a vote on this element? Thank you. All those, no, sorry, Mish, you do the bit, don't you? Sorry. Thank you, that's unanimous. And can I come back to you, Tom, for B?
Chairman, thank you. Those of you with good memories will recall that at the annual council meeting, when you kindly elected me leader again, I made the pledge that I would do what I could to make these occasions more meaningful than just rocking up, voting a few things through and disappearing in half an hour, or even less. And what you've got here is B is an example of what exactly I had in mind, but I'm not going to steal John's thunder. John Rain was chair of this working group, and I'm going to invite John to talk specifically now to B.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, good evening, Council. To B, the Council Constitution be amended to allow the Chairman to use their discretion more flexibly around notices of motion. This is something that I used to experience when I was a county councillor, and it sort of worked quite well, mostly. But I've always felt it was appropriate that at this council we too should have the opportunity to bring motions and deal with them. We've been in the habit of bringing many motions to this council, and they have just then been passed to another body to decide them, no doubt very well, effectively, but I think it's great that the whole council has the opportunity to contribute to that process. So I was very pleased that the group, for whom I thank for their participation, we only managed to need one meeting, and thank you particularly to the work of Misha Patel, Director of Governance, who prepared us with papers on these subjects and helped us in our deliberations. But a unanimous outcome was that this is something that it was timely for Malvern Hills to do. So, as I say, I was delighted that it was a unanimous viewpoint. Hope it is tonight too.
Thank you, John. Do any of the councillors have any comments or thoughts? Sarah?
Yeah, I'd just like to bring up something Tom said then about making council meetings more, whatever it was, give them a point. And actually the point of council meetings is to do the voting and discussing items. And if you look back at what we've done this year, we've hardly done anything. We had a meeting about Malvern Hills Trusts. There's nothing coming through to the agenda. So I do feel a bit that what's actually happening is these council meetings have nothing on them that's here for us to discuss or debate. So actually maybe, you know, discussing notice of motions is fine. I once watched one at Worcester County Council where they talked about what fish they have in their river for half an hour. So if there's nobody here from the members of the public, it might be quite nice to move them to the end so that those of us who just want to attend the actual matters of the council can do that. And then those who want to debate whatever notice of motion is there, they can stay for that. But an hour is quite a long time if the notices of motion is something you're not actually interested in. You know, so it would be quite nice to have that flexibility. But I do think we need to look at what's actually coming to council. Very little went to overview, well, nothing went to overview and scrutiny last time. I think there was some items at exec, but nothing is coming to council, and maybe that needs to be looked at more thoroughly.
Thank you, Sarah. And it's a good point. On the actually within the report under 3.4, it states the CPG felt that some of the recommendations may have a knock-on effect to other procedural rules as set out in the Constitution, for example, the order of business for council meetings. So the CPG agreed that these should be reviewed and amended as required. So I guess, Misha, is that just referring to the order of the meeting can be...
So what, Councillor?
Thank you. Is there any comments or thoughts? Dean?
Just to swing the lamp a bit, my first night as chair at County Hall, because we couldn't meet here for some reason, COVID wasn't it, I think. We had a notice of motion about carbon 30, is it? I seem to remember, and we had some activists turn up. I remember Jack telling me, don't upset them because we haven't got any security men to do anything with them much. But it was a very informed debate, and I think it informed our decision in the future about how we should try and reach our targets.
Thank you, Dean. I think it was a renovation of this room, wasn't it? That's why we were at County. Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly concerned about the wording of this because the chairman has the right to allow for debate. One of the reasons for the adding of the with consultation with the chief executive, etc., is what you don't want to do is have a debate that has budgetary impact that the officers haven't effectively assessed. But at any point, and indeed we've done it over the last council term, we've actually had that debate in the council around the Malvern Hills College, as an example, was one where all councillors did have a... So if this is simply just to remind the chairman that they have the ability to do that, all well and good. I think the other thing, though, is just picking up on tree policies as an example, I take the point that, you know, the officers have a procedure in place for trees, but at the end of the day, it's the councillors that set the policies. It's us that agree the policies at council meetings. So again, back to this point around if there aren't policies coming forward and we feel strongly about individual policies on, for example, trees, we might introduce those as a notice of motion and get those debated, because that will help build out the agenda and make this council proactive rather than it just sitting here nodding things through, which it's been doing for the last couple of years.
Thank you, Jeremy. Tom?
Chair, if I could just sum up and just pick up a couple of points, particularly the points made by Councillor Rouse, actually. I would be disappointed if all members didn't want to get involved in discussion and debate on matters of local relevance and in particular import to this council. That would be sad. These motions I don't think will be spurious and irrelevant. I think they will be of interest and importance, not just this council, but the people we serve. And I would be desperately upset if people felt that this council meeting was simply about rubber stamping a few items then and going away. There's an opportunity here to listen to what each of us has to say and contribute. And I think that's important. John's report makes it really clear about what we might be looking at and what we probably wouldn't be looking at. And Jeremy's comment about anything with budgetary potential would clearly need to be run past the finance officer before implicating us in any expenditure. Councillor Owenson also referenced the fact that on one occasion, and just one occasion that I can recall in recent years, we did debate something here. We did dangerously. We allowed for some discussion and voting on a matter of local importance, namely Malvern Hills Art College. But throughout the rest of that year, under a Conservative chairman, and subsequently, we haven't done that. And most of the time, in fact, all the other occasions, the matter, forgive me for saying this, was referred to some dark and damp place that never saw the light of day again. And that is not good governance. I think if something's important, it's often of timely importance, not something that can be pushed aside for 6 months and then resurrected in some form at ONS or somewhere. So I think it's more than encouraging the chairman to provide something that technically, according to the constitution, they could do already. It's to take the presumption in favour of debate on the night rather than not. And I think that's a fundamental difference.
Natalie?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to say, I think this is a good example of where things didn't get kicked into the long grass, because this came up, I think Councillor Allen brought it up a while ago, and it was suggested that we pull together a cross-party group, and that's exactly what happened, and that's where these recommendations have come from. So I think that's really good practice in how we have dealt with something. And I think it's really important to say that John obviously did an excellent job chairing that panel for everybody to have one meeting and decide unanimously on everything. And yes, so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I come to you, Dean, I was going to comment on that as well, actually, that it was Martin, wasn't it? So this is a good example of actually where something has gone somewhere else and it's actually been effective. So, Dean.
Just a quick one. I'm sure Tom didn't want to blame Barbara for her chairmanship and there being no...
Yeah, just on a point of order there, I'm not sure there actually was any notices of motion, so it's pretty hard to debate any if nobody brought any.
Thank you.
Makes it a little bit complicated.
Thank you. So shall we take a vote on this one? Thank you. Thank you, Misha. That one was also unanimous. So we come to point C. Tom, thank you.
Chairman, so this is something perhaps something new. It's routinely the case that in county councils in the West Midlands that I'm aware of, that those people who are either called cabinet members or portfolio holders have a duty to be scrutinised at source, actually, and to be held account for the responsibilities they have. And in this proposal, John's proposal, you'll see here we're talking about something really quite small and something that we can review in 12 months. But in essence, each portfolio holder on an annual basis, once a year, presents a report to this council and is then asked questions about that report, specifically about that report. I think that would be, from my point of view, regarded as good practice. Now, we are not the cabinet scrutiny model that most councils find themselves in these days, although Worcester City isn't. We're a fourth option, I think is what they were called. So the function and purpose of our portfolio holders is slightly different to that rather more pure model. But nevertheless, we have portfolio holders. They are paid a special responsibility allowance. They are regarded as having some political responsibility for the services in their areas. And it strikes me that it's only reasonable, therefore, that once a year they present to this council. I think we've said that that would have to be within 10 minutes, so it's really quite constrained. And the questioning would only be 3 minutes for each question. So it's really quite managed initially. And let's see how it goes for 12 months. And if it works, we'll see where we can take it. So the proposal's there, little one, little two. I'm sure John may have things he would wish to add to that.
Thank you. I'll come to you, John.
Very, very little, Chair. It's all been said. I think this works well as a way of increasing the accountability of our portfolio holders, and most importantly, I think, engaging all our councillors in that process of knowing what's going on and having the opportunity to ask the questions that they want to hear the answers to. So I think it's just good practice. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Can you confirm that you're seconding that as well? Sorry, just for a... Thank you. Just before I throw it out to the floor, can I just ask, just in terms of the portfolio report, would they be expected to be present in the pack beforehand so people see sight of them, or will it just be the portfolio holder, comes with a speech ready?
John, did you discuss that in your panel?
Well, yes and no. We certainly we didn't dwell on it, and we didn't write the script of exactly what should happen. But I think the sentiment of the discussion we had was very much the case, that they would prepare a report and hopefully circulate it ahead of the meeting so that everybody has a chance to think what their question might be, seeing what's perhaps not covered or what they want to engage about. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do you have any questions, Dean?
It might be an idea. I'm not sure if we suggested this at that actual meeting, but it would be at least polite for anybody who wanted to ask questions of a portfolio holder to do so beforehand, so they get a proper response rather than try and catch somebody out.
Do you have any other comments or thoughts, Sarah?
Yeah, it seems a reasonable idea. It's just it is scrutiny function. We are bringing scrutiny function to council and creating it in a managed way. I think the idea of asking questions beforehand is a little bit scripted, sort of kind of takes the edge out of the whole point of the thing. But I would say that if there's anything that comes up in these meetings, we should take it to scrutiny, because actually that's where it should be being discussed and looked at by the scrutiny team. It's great that full council can have these opportunities, but actually all the people in the administration have the opportunity to ask their portfolio holder in their group whatever they want all the time. So it's actually only us backbenchers in the opposition that don't have that. So it's a kind of like, oh, let's scrutinise, that'll be fun, and do it all live on YouTube.
Thank you, Sarah. Paul?
I certainly agree with the report being distributed to councillors before the meeting, because obviously we do need a chance to read it and know what we're talking about. And I'm not keen on the questions having to be put in before, because it just destroys the spontaneity of meetings. And also, as Sarah's just said, it's very scripted and it just wouldn't be real.
Thank you. Beverly?
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to add some thoughts, perhaps as a sort of portfolio holder from time to time. I feel that it is an opportunity really for, as Sarah, as Councillor Rouse says, you know, for the backbenchers, if I can put it like that, to get some insight into what's going on in a more timely way. Don't see it really as taking the function of scrutiny, because you're asking questions on what sort of is in front of you. And it may, as Councillor Rouse say, lead to opportunities for scrutiny, further discussion at scrutiny. So I do agree with that. And I also agree with Councillor Bennett that it's better, I think, if it has a slightly more contemporaneous feel to it and is not, you know, we don't get the questions beforehand. I think that would be liven up the discussion. Oh, sorry, Pam, excuse me, sorry. I'm not sure whether anybody thinks it's worth repeating, actually, but I was sort of agreeing with Councillor Bennett and partially agreeing with Councillor Rouse, but with a proviso. Hopefully that might help.
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? Jeremy?
Yeah, so I'm inclined to agree. You know, scrutiny should be the place where this is done properly. But if portfolio holders are happy to put themselves forward once a year to the bear pit, and it doesn't turn into a what should we say, a sort of a beauty parade where people just brag for 30 minutes, it could well be a good opportunity. And I think it's a very bold decision.
Thank you, Jeremy. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Or yeah, Tom, come back to you.
Chairman, just in summation, Councillor Rouse referred to the function of overviewing scrutiny. Could I say and place on the record this evening that all my portfolio holders are more than happy to attend, if requested, any meeting of the Overviewing Scrutiny Committee? In fact, we'll attend in our great number and sit on the back row feeling pretty redundant. I'm sure that I speak for all the team, that they would be more than happy to attend and be held to account in scrutiny, and we're disappointed that we're not.
Thank you, Tom. I think we can take that to the vote. Thank you. Thank you. So that final one was unanimous as well. Paul, did you?
Yeah, can I just, we are going to meet again, aren't we? Because that wasn't everything. Because John slipped that in early on. He said, "Oh, we did it all in one meeting," and I was thinking, there may be other issues that might come up, perhaps, from time to time.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 9. So this is a...
Sorry,
Paul. Peter, sorry.
Chair,
Yeah.
we've just gone through 2.1 A, B and C. Shouldn't we be looking at 2.2 as well in the report, purely for form?
I think they were the voting points, weren't they? Let me...
2.2 is a recommendation. I think this was
just
the error in taking
referring.
them bit by bit.
Okay, so yeah, it's thank you, Peter. So 2.2, the council delegates the chief executive and monitoring officer in consultation with the CPG chair. The final wording of the constitutional changes required for 2.1 A and B above, and any other minor consequential changes to the council's constitution. We need a proposer and a seconder, don't we? Thank you, Peter.
I propose that.
You certainly can. And Dean, thank you for seconding. Should we take a vote on that? Thank you. There isn't a 2.3, is there, before I move on? Right, great. Okay, the previously mentioned agenda item 9, appointments to committees and outside bodies. So this report was published on the 18th of September of this year, obviously supplementary to the agenda, and was available online as part of the agenda pack. Can I invite Tom again to move the recommendations in the report?
So, Chairman, from memory, it's just for noting, I think. Our officers have gone away and consulted with Abacus and decided that the numbers now work out slightly differently, given the fact that that one member of the DIG group decided to join the, I was going to say Green Group, but I understand they're not called the Green Group anymore, Chairman. They're called the Gaia Group, which I believe stands for Green and Independent Alliance. There you go. And I believe that it's the same name at county, at Worcestershire County. Oh, I'm in it. Well, I should know that, shouldn't I? And as a consequence of that, rather subtle change, it did actually have quite a significant impact on the apportionment of seats on the exec committee, which now are 3-3-2-1-1. 3 Gaia, 3 Dig, 2 Conservative, 1 Lib Dem and 1 Malvern Hills Independent. So that is the new template. I'm told by officers that we don't have to this evening populate those numbers with individual names, but group leaders will provide them in due course. So tonight we're here just to note the changing number on the council's exec committee.
Sorry,
Yeah,
point of order, it says recommendations for all 3.
We do need to vote on this, Tom.
Okay, sorry, forgive me, I'm looking at the wrong piece of paper, Sarah. I've got the wrong piece of paper here.
It's the one in the agenda on the...
So we've got so many
online.
different pieces of paper tonight. I'm looking at 3 pieces. Okay, sorry, forgive me, Sarah.
We have to do the trust as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take this one at a time, shall we? So the amended number of seats for the 2 groups on the exec committee are set out in the attached table, which I've just described, be confirmed. That any consequent changes to appointments to the exec committee be agreed. So in other words, that's encapsulating what I was saying, that we are basically confirming this tonight. We have no option but to confirm. We have no reason to doubt our officers' figures. So that is what is being proposed, and the precise populating of those posts will be done consequentially. I think that's what it's saying. 2, the council agrees the introduction of health and wellbeing champion role to sit alongside the other champion roles and agrees the appointment to that role. And then finally, the Malvern Hills Trust. So perhaps if we take them one at a time. So little one first, I'm moving.
Do we have a seconder on that as well? Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, happy to second. As Tom just explained, there's been a shift in numbers. So that affects the proportionality, and it's as simple as that, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Is everybody clear on this?
No,
before
I
we
need a
go?
clarification.
Thank you.
So what we're being told we're voting on is the allocation of 33211. But how is a person appointed to the executive committee? I thought that was done by council, and it could only be done by council. So does this mean that we don't have people appointed to executive committee?
Misha?
So the appointments that are already made to the executive committee that are not affected by those changing numbers will stand because they were made in at annual council. So it's just the changes in the appointments for the Democratic Independent Group and the Green and Independent Alliance. But those the other appointments still stand as they are.
So that hasn't answered my question. So my point is that this council appoints people to the executive committee, and at the moment, therefore, we aren't appointing anyone on the Democratic Alliance and the Green Independent Alliance because you haven't told me who I'm appointing from those groups to exec.
Okay, I'm happy to help you out there, Jeremy. I thought that I'd been advised previously that that wasn't the case, but I'm happy to put the names in the frames if that helps you. And group leaders must jump upon me if I've got this wrong. But for the purpose of this meeting and for the accuracy of the minutes, as follows. The D group will comprise 3 members, and they will be Councillor T. Wells, Councillor J. Gallagher, Councillor D. Harrison. The Gaia members on the executive committee will comprise Councillor Jules Wood, Councillor Natalie McVeigh, and Councillor Mark Driscoll.
Jeremy? Is
That's what I expected to see in the papers.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, if that's the proposal, then we can vote on that.
Yeah. We had a seconder from Natalie. Is you okay with that still? Okay. And do you have any other further questions, queries on this? No. Should we go to the vote? Just,
So if we
do you want to take a vote? How do we get a response on that? Thank you, Misha.
I think it was only me in the end. I am, if it's constitutionally possible, not willing to bring this council back just for this one point. I'm just my say so, despite my wish normally to vote that way.
Misha.
I can take the vote again, but just to be clear, on political balance, because the requirements of political balance are worked out proportionally, you have to aim for, under the legislation, you have to aim for proportionality on the committees, but overall on the full number of committee places. And if you don't have that on every committee, then the council can vote to have whatever it has, but nobody can vote against it. So I take the vote again if you want us to, Councillor Clark. Okay.
Thank you. I think we moved on to the vote. Okay.
Right. So on that recommendation 2.1, for the recommendation on political balance and the nominations, those voting in favour, please raise your cards. And those voting against? And those abstaining? That vote is carried.
Thank you. Sorry, Misha, to be clear, do we need to take a vote on the second element?
No,
then?
that was
You
the
don't.
first,
You're
yes.
fine. Okay, great.
So now you need point 2.
Yeah, thank you. Point 2, Tom.
Chairman, I think it's unfortunate that members felt unable to support our monitoring officer and potentially throw some kind of doubt into their professionalism in the guidance they provide to us. I think that's really unfortunate. I'll move on. So the second recommendation is the introduction of a health and wellbeing champion to sit alongside other champion roles and agree the appointment to that role. I'd like to move the name of Councillor Christine Wild, who already serves this council on a number of external bodies relating to health and wellbeing and does a brilliant job. She's also currently the Vice Chairman of HOSC, the County-wide Health Review and Scrutiny Committee, and on occasion, because her chairman's been poorly, has chaired that meeting extremely well. She's a great ambassador for this council. The role suits her absolutely, and I have no hesitation in moving the nomination.
Thank you, Tom. Do you have a seconder for that proposal? Thank you. And can we open up that for debate, discussion? If he has any queries, that's fine. Shall we go to the vote? Thank you. And the final one, Tom, can we come to you for that?
Chairman, I've got one name for you. I'm hoping there may be others as well. I'm really pleased to propose Councillor Malcolm Victory. Thank you, Malcolm. But we have 4 other spaces.
So this is for the appointment of the Malvern Hills Trust, isn't it? We need 5, is that correct, Tom?
Yep.
Okay, up to 5, sorry. Natalie?
So I have been given another name, which I'm happy to propose, and that is Councillor Paul Bennett.
Okay, which?
So there you are.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Natalie. Do we have any people? Neville? Great, good stuff. Do we have any other names? I'll get a second. Yeah, wasn't it? I thought David put his hand up to join. Did you have a seconder for Paul? So we did have a proposer in. No.
No, Malcolm.
Sorry for Matt.
I have all seconded Paul.
Got you. Okay.
We need a seconder for Malcolm.
Thank you,
I'll
Natalie.
second Councillor Victory, Malcolm Victory.
Thank you. You nearly got away, Malcolm. Yeah. Do we have any other nominations whilst we're on a roll? You can't do it. You're already on, John.
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused here because I thought Malcolm was already on.
No.
Not as a district councillor. So it's as representative of us. Thank you, John. No. Do we have the two? Okay. Everybody in favour? Show your cards. Thank you, everybody. That was, just a forward plan, which is obviously just for noting. Thank you for your attendance. The next meeting is on the 26th of November. Good to see you all. Thank you.